Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Brie, and we are on episode 25. It has been almost 2 weeks since I've recorded on here because, well, the first week I had what I thought was just like really bad allergies. So I gave myself a break because the pollen was astronomically high where I am, and it was killing me. I couldn't breathe. It was awful. My husband was the same way. And then last Monday night, my body decided to just come down with the flu. And so from Monday night to Thursday night, I was a burrito in a blanket, really only crawling around and getting my kids things as they needed them. It was the full shebang, body aches, fever, chills, all that good stuff. And then that finally let up Thursday night. On the weekend, it just kind of felt like cold and allergies again. And today I definitely still have remnants of it. My voice is not where it normally is on the scale of how high my voice can go. I'm kind of croaky today, in the words of Gerard Butler. So that's where we're at. I'm doing a lot better though. Despite my body trying to kill me with the flu last week, it did not. I'm still here. And it has been like 3 weeks. I just opened my YouTube to check which episode I was on since it's been so long. And I was like, oh, wow, last upload 2 weeks ago. So I'm back, hopefully for better than worse. So admittedly, I have not been in the news cycle like I normally am, looking at things and paying attention to things. So today's episode is going to be a little less breaking, interesting stuff in that sense. Some of it's stuff that's a little old now. I just haven't had a chance to cover it. So we're going to talk about Target, we're going to talk about Chic-fil-A, we're going to talk about, what have I got up there? The male Disneyland employee that has sparked outrage for, you'll see why. And sorry, Dylan might get brought up just because, it comes with the territory. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about Netflix's Queen Charlotte because I just decided to watch that and forgot about it. And then yesterday I was home and realized I had one episode left, so I finished it. So we're going to talk about all of those topics, kind of a laid back episode because of how crappy I've been feeling, and it's me trying to get back into the swing of things here. So we're going to do that. Before I start, I do still exist. I am still on Twitter. I am still on Instagram. fearmeitsbre is the handle on both of those accounts if you would like to see anything on them. And I'm going to probably start off with the Queen Charlotte kind of review. So Queen Charlotte is Netflix's spin-off of the show Bridgerton, which is, would it be Edwardian or Regency? My brain doesn't want to work. Normally I'm better at this stuff, but, Pride and Prejudice. Think of Pride and Prejudice, but a little more raunchy. Definitely if you watch it, be warned, there is stuff in it. There was almost an entire episode that I fast-forwarded because I understand. They just got married. They're very much in love. I don't need to be reminded of that every few minutes. Let's just say that. So other than that, I enjoy the show. I think it's a really good story. I like all the characters. I like how it goes through the family of siblings, where season 1 was about the daughter and her budding romance with the Duke or whatever, and just like how that all went. And then season 2, they kind of shifted them out, and it was about her older brother and obviously his romance. And so like the next season's going to be about the next sibling, and like it's going to go down the line probably. It probably won't follow the books where like each one was about a specific sibling, or they'd be doing the show for like the next decade. So they might combine some storylines, stuff like that, add their own take to it. So, it's an adaptation. So they're going to do that kind of stuff. And in Bridgerton, they definitely have things. So season 1 and 2 take place, I think season 2 takes place in like 1816-ish, because Charlotte, the present day scenes in Charlotte take place in 1817, and that's like right after season 2 has ended. So 1817, 1816, whatever, 1815, let's just go with that. And they definitely, so there's a few woke things in Bridgerton. Like there's definitely a few feminist quips in it. They definitely, they cast diverse actors as characters that would not have been Black or would not have been Indian. They would not have had this background in the hierarchy of court had they been people of color, because back then slavery was outlawed in the sense of you could not buy and sell or trade slaves at this point in time in England, but you were kind of grandfathered in, where if you already owned slaves, you were allowed to keep them until, I think it might have been the 1830s. I don't remember. I got to brush up on that. But historically, if you were black in London, you would not have had the prestige that they give people in the show, which they didn't really, I feel like, in Bridgerton, make a big deal about that, and I was fine with that. I didn't care that Queen Charlotte was played by a black actress because they didn't necessarily make it a huge deal. They might have made a quip here and there, but it wasn't like the main focal point of the story. I don't care. It's a historical fiction. Like, I don't care. You're not taking real, well, Queen Charlotte was real, but like she was only like a side character in the main series, so it wasn't like focused on her, and it, you know, it worked and I enjoyed it. But with Queen Charlotte, you can tell. So Queen Charlotte is the spinoff that takes place both right after season 2 and back in 17, crap, when would that have been? 1740s, maybe 1750s, but pre-American Revolution, because it's about Queen Charlotte and George III, their marriage, them getting together, and them I don't know. It was boring. The show was very boring. It was very dry. I'm struggling to tell you what it's about because of that, and I watched all 6 episodes. So, one thing that I really felt like with it, you can tell when Netflix has previous source material, and you can tell when they write their own stuff. So, like, The Witcher. The Witcher is a very good example of that. Season 1, based off of the first book. Season 2, based off of the second book, but you could tell where Netflix rewrote things and added things in because that stuff wasn't as good as the material that came from the books. And then they created Witcher Blood Origin, which was supposed to be a prequel show set thousands of years before. They made it all up, justified some things that happened in season 2 that weren't book or game accurate by plugging them into Blood Origin. The show was terrible. I think we watched maybe the first 2, maybe 3 episodes. I know we at least have 1 left, if not 2. Originally, it was supposed to be like 6 episodes or 8 episodes, and then they dropped it to 6 or 4, whichever way it went, because it just wasn't good. It was so condensed. You could tell that they came up with it. You could tell they shoehorned things in to try and connect it to the regular series to get people to be more interested in it and feel like they had to watch it. And that's what I felt like Queen Charlotte was. You could tell with Bridgerton, they already had source material in the books. They did change a few things I've read. I haven't read the books, but I have read that they have changed a few things, but people enjoyed it. They thought it was for the better. However, with Queen Charlotte, they decided to, hey, Queen Charlotte's a beloved character in Bridgerton and historical figure. Why don't we make a show about how she became Queen Charlotte? That's fine. Okay. But what bothered me about the show is not that Charlotte was played by a black actress. Like, whatever. Like I said in Bridgerton, it's not historically accurate, but it works. Whatever. I don't really care. What they did with Queen Charlotte is they took a theory that was proposed in 1997, I believe it was, that Charlotte was actually of black descent, and ran with it. That theory has been disproven. She was Portuguese. And from what I can tell, she was very white and very ginger. So she definitely was not of the descent that she is claimed to be of. It was disproven, I think, through genealogy and stuff, because I was reading into it and stuff to see where they got this from. So what they did is they ran with that theory that Charlotte was of African descent, and then they made it a plot point. So instead of just having her be played by a black actress and just leave it at that, they made up a storyline that the reason that Charlotte and King George III were being married was because of a great experiment in London to ease racial tensions and integrate black people into the court class. So in the show, Charlotte gets married to the king as a great experiment because she's black. And another side character who is in the original series, Lady Danbury, and her husband, the Lord Danbury, get integrated into society along with Charlotte as like the first black lord and lady in England or something like that. And there's a lot of feminist quips in it, like I said, where Charlotte, there's a one part that made me laugh out loud where she was like, her brother told her to calm down and stop being emotional, and she's like, I'm not being emotional, I'm angry. And I'm just like, honey, I don't know where you're from, but anger is an emotion, okay? Feeling anger, that is an emotional reaction, and that is an emotional response. Your brother is totally in the right in saying that you are being emotional. So that kind of was like a hey moment. And there were a few things in it, like I said, where they really pushed the racial narrative, which, like, again, I would not have been a thing. That would not have existed in that culture in that time. And what bothered me is if you want to have a story of a groundbreaking racial divide that ends up being shattered, there's so many historical figures, empowered black women, that you could make this, not this specific show, but you could make a show about. You don't have to take a theory that has been debunked, try and plug it into history, and pretend that that's the whole reason why this whole thing happened, because it was not. Charlotte was not married to the king as a great experiment in race mixing. That's not what this was. So that drove me nuts. There were a few things, like there was one scene that I was like, okay, out of all the things that have been said in the show, you just lost me with this one, where she was getting her portrait done and she looks at it and she goes, I want you to paint my skin darker like it really is. And the portrait painter is like, no, I'm doing it right. And she goes, no, you're not. You're lightening it. And then the queen's mother-in-law comes and looks at it and is like, I want you to paint her even paler. Make her glow, or something like that. And then Charlotte has this like, you're not going to erase my blackness face. And it just was like, that part just lost me, because I was like, okay. See what you're doing here, and it's not working. And another thing, all in all, I feel like the show was all right. It was decent. It was very flat, dry, and boring, like my tone is right now, because I've been sick. But it just didn't pique my interest at all. I kind of just went through the whole thing like, all right, when's the story going to start? All I'm getting is like snarky remarks about race and feminism. I'd like the show to begin. So, you know, there were some interesting like character backstory things, I guess, about the characters that are the parents in Bridgerton or whatever. And some of it was okay. They also had the queen's right-hand guy and the king's right-hand guy have like a behind-the-scenes little, I mean, not behind-the-scenes, they showed it, romance, gay romance that I felt like they put more into than they put into Charlotte and George's relationship. I was telling my friend, the ending of the show is actually very bittersweet, and if I felt connected to those characters, it's something that would make you tear up, because in history, King George was like psycho. He was mad. He went nuts. Charlotte did rule for a lot of the reign because he was incapacitated and he was crazy. And it especially got kicked off by the deaths of his two youngest from smallpox inoculations, actually. And he would see his two littlest ones. They had like 15 kids. Only like 12 of them, I think, survived to adulthood. But he would see his children. He'd hear their voices. Like, the poor guy went crazy. And imagine being married to that. So like they tried to humanize it instead of having it just be like something lost in history, and have their relationship kind of be more sentimental. So the ending of the show, you're supposed to feel that like there's a few minutes where he breaks the madness and looks at his wife and like kisses her, and like there's love between them again, kind of thing. So I was like, well, if I was connected to these characters and they did a good job with them, I probably would be like, aw. But I really was like, I don't care. I don't feel anything for them. They focused more on the gay relationship, I feel like, than they did having more than just sexual chemistry between Charlotte and George. I didn't feel anything for them. And then I was telling my friend and my husband, I was like, obviously the flashback scenes this wouldn't work for, but all of the flash forward scenes in the present time you could have actually inserted into Bridgerton episodes as not even subplots, but subplots. They were so minorly important. You could have had them happening in the background and it wouldn't have made a difference. I feel like the show was just totally unnecessary to make, other than as a political statement. And when I looked it up to see if it was, well, maybe she wrote a book. Yeah, she did, based on the Netflix screenplay. Like I said, you can tell when the Netflix writers take over, and you can tell when there's previous source material. And when the Netflix writers take over, it ends up being crap. And that's all I'll have to say about that, because that was a long rant that I didn't intend to go into. And it was probably very boring, honestly, because I'm sure nobody cares about Queen Charlotte. But I enjoy that time period. I enjoy historical stuff. So I figured I'd watch it because I was interested in it to a degree. And I did not enjoy it. It was very boring. Bridgerton's something I probably would watch again just because it was interesting enough to me. Charlotte, I'm fine with never seeing again. I would have been fine with never having watched it in the first place now that I know how dry and boring it was. It was literally just made to be a political statement, and it just did not work. That said, I also am thinking about, I know there's a group of people that I'm acquainted with that are going to go see The Little Mermaid in theaters. I would not otherwise go see it in theaters. I would wait for it to come on Disney Plus and just watch it then. But if they're going anyway, I might go see it and I might review it. I'm not sure yet. Everything I've heard sounds like it's, to quote, what is it, the New York Times, dry, boring, and missing its kink. I don't know why they think it needs kink. But yeah, no, that was in the actual review. So I don't know. Maybe I might go see that and I might give an opinion on it. I'll try and make it less dry and boring than my opinion on Queen Charlotte was, but I really don't know what else to say about that other than it was I get it, it's historical fiction, but there comes a point with historical fiction where you have to honor the original history. Otherwise, what are you doing? It's not like the show Outlander, where it's fictional characters where a historical character might brush in and out of the series. Otherwise, it's all fiction. This is supposed to be about a historical character, and it just bothers me. I know it's not going to be accurate. Like, it doesn't need to be totally accurate, but it just bothers me that they took liberties that much with history. It just didn't work, and I'm going to be done because that was a long rant. I am so sorry. And my mouth is so dry. I definitely am still suffering a little bit from having been sick. Like I said, I'm getting back into the swing of things with this episode, so it's not like others where I'm a little more lively. So we're going to go over some Target stuff now because I find that fun and I find that interesting. Everybody already knows about this. It's old news, but I haven't gotten to say anything about it, so I'm going to say something about it. We're going to look at a New York Post article about it. How long is this video? So if you don't know, Target has always made a big deal about Pride Month. And they've always made a big deal about the LGBTQ community. And this month they decided to partner with a Satanist artist who has things like pins that say Satan respects pronouns, which is totally true. Satan wants you to live in a lie. Satan wants you to fall into sin, and Satan wants to entrap you. So Satan definitely does respect pronouns. He's not wrong there. But they're targeting children with this line, and something about selling artwork that celebrates Satan and is created by a Satanist to children and teenagers does not sit well with me. So I'm gonna play this quick video. I'm gonna make sure the sound's down all the way because it looks like they've got an ad first. I'm gonna hop over to the screen once the ad's done. I'll see how long the video is as well. And I'm going to be muting myself throughout, so bear with me if it goes quiet. That's me messing with the mic levels. It's a really long ad. It's about not wearing seat belts and not texting while driving, I guess, or something. Which, good information. I suppose you shouldn't do that. All right. I'm going to put that back. I'm going to bring the sound up, and I'm going to turn myself down, and we're going to hop over to the screen that you can see. And now we're going to do the video for context. All right.
Look, I think this is why the Budlight example is so important. And thank you guys for having me on. Good to see you again. because what Bud Light represents is the first time that I can remember really in sort of the modern era where a company has to think, hey, let's be careful. Let's not go too far left wing. Let's not go too far woke, because it could destabilize, debilitate, destroy the overall brand of our company. And I guarantee you right now, they're having conversations about let's not get Bud Lighted in all of these different boardrooms as it pertains to marketing decisions. And I think Target has lost that lesson.
I had myself turned down. So what they just showed was some of those products from Target, the pins, and not even all of it. That's not even all of it. So let's go through the article so I can find more about it for you. All right. Target loses $10 billion in 10 days as stocks fall following boycott over LGBTQ-friendly kid clothing. Target has lost $10 billion in market value over the last 10 days as the popular retailer continues to face backlash over its Pride-themed clothing line for children. A week ago on Wednesday, Target enjoyed its stock value at $160.96 a share. But following the calls to boycott the Minneapolis-based retailer over its Pride collection, the value plummeted and closed Friday at $138.93 a share. The nearly 14% drop in value for the blue chip stock roughly translates to a $10.1 billion loss and valuation to just $64.2 billion for Target, which has nearly 2,000 stores nationwide. The plummet stands as the retailer's lowest stock price in nearly 3 years. The last time the company saw a drop this big came in 2022 after the stocks equalized following an unprecedented surge during the COVID-19 pandemic. Target, which has been caught in the middle of America's culture war over gender, moved its Pride section in some southern states away from the front last week after it said displays were knocked over by protesters who also confronted workers. I haven't found any proof that that is true about Target being protested, and like they're saying they're getting violent threats and things like that from conservatives. People have been sharing videos of like Target in like smithereens and being like, look what the protesters did. But those videos were time-stamped, and there's proof that they were from the 2020 BLM riots, not conservatives going and messing Target up, to put it family friendly. So I haven't seen any proof that conservatives are actually doing this. The difference between the left and a conservative is when a conservative doesn't like something like this, they'll be like, I guess I'm not buying Bud Light anymore. Guess we're not going to Target anymore. Guess we're going here instead. And when a leftist doesn't like something, it's let's light it on fire. So I have a high doubts that conservatives are actually doing what they're claiming that they're doing. But there are people out there that might do that kind of stuff. So I don't know for sure. Here's some of the Pride line. You got, which flag is that? I get tired and confused. I think that's the transgender flag. Socks. You've just got rainbows everywhere. I don't even know what that says. I don't want to take the time to read it. Just be you. Like, they've got baby stuff. Did I miss something? No. The retailer also said it would remove items from the collection, but did not specify which ones. Among the ones that garnered the most attention were tuck-friendly women's swimsuits that allow trans women who have not had gender-affirming operations, in other words, women with penises, if you can even call them that, to conceal their genitalia, as well as rainbow-themed children's clothing. I actually saw a Twitter thread where a bunch of leftists on Twitter were like, no, that's not what they mean when they say tuck, you silly conservatives. Women's swimsuits for tucking don't mean that it's for trans women with penises to tuck. It's for women so that their lady bits don't spill over the sides. And I've seen so many women in those Twitter threads being like, really? Last I checked, I've been a biological woman for about 45 years, and I've never had a swimsuit advertised to me for that. There's a difference between coverage for women so that they feel comfortable in their swimsuits and tucking. Okay? There is a difference there. There's a very fine difference. And I also find it funny that people are freaking out and being like, no, conservatives, you're dumb. That's not what it's for. Do you support gay rights or do you not support gay rights? Do you support transgender rights or do you not support transgender rights? Because when you get confronted about this item being in a store, you say that it's not that, even though it so clearly says on the tag that it is. So are you for this or not? Why are you so scared to admit that it is that? That's my question. But anyway, while many have likened the conservative boycott against Target to that of Bud Light, which saw sales crash after partnering with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, Texas Senator Dead Trues. Oh my gosh, I'm tired and I still don't feel great. Texas Senator Ted Cruz doubted the backlash against the retailer would be as impactful. Speaking on his podcast Friday, the Republican said that while multiple alternatives exist to replace Anheuser-Busch's brands, the same is not so for Target. I don't know. I disagree. He instead compared the retailer to Disney, which suffered backlash after speaking out against Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law last year, but continues to be a financial giant. You can be annoyed at Disney, but if your kids really want to go to Disney World, that can be hard to say no to. Don't Say Gay law, there are not a lot of alternatives. There's Six Flags, but Disney World is a pretty unique offering, Cruz said. There's only one Snow White or Cinderella or Toy Story from Pixar. That is a difficult product for many people to give up permanently. So the thing is with that, you can still love all the Disney classics. You can still enjoy those things, and you can still take part in a boycott against Disney to a degree. You can go into Walmart and one time collect all of the Disney classics, cancel your Disney Plus subscription, and not support them from there going forward and not support any upcoming projects if you really want to. Snow White's not the problem here. The problem is what modern Disney is trying to do with its company now. A movie that was made in the 1930s is not the problem. The Texas politician said the effort against Target could quickly wilt because historically conservatives had typically been not very good at boycotts, and that is true. Conservatives are not the best at boycotts. They're just not. Conservatives talk a big game, but normally they don't do that much, whereas the left will talk a big game and then they will firebomb you, and that's another difference between the left. However, I think with this, it's not just conservatives boycotting Target. Okay, there are people who are just average Joes walking into Target and being like, what the crap is this? It's more than just conservatives. My husband works in an area where there's totally apolitical people. There's people that don't give a crap about politics. If you knew the environment he worked in, you'd be like, okay, that makes sense. And with the Bud Light thing, a lot of them are people who would drink Bud Light. And a lot of them do drink Bud Light. He has a very specific coworker who he made a joke where he was like, time to go home and crack one open or something like that. And my husband was like, oh yeah, you're gonna go home and have your Bud Light? And the guy was like, what? I'm not drinking that stuff anymore. So even people who are not political at all, like this guy's not political, he doesn't care, but he knows what's going on with the Bud Light situation and he's not happy with it. He thinks it's a step too far and he thinks it's ridiculous. And people are starting to be that way with Target. I don't live near Target. I go maybe a handful of times a year because of that. So it's not that hard for me to step away and say, all right, I guess we're just not gonna get stuff there. Even if it's just for the month of June. I feel like, especially with conservative women, if it's hard for you to say, I'm never going to shop at Target again, I understand that, okay? Even if it's just for the month of June, just to show them for that quarter of, if you push this stuff, we're not going to shop here. Even that would be helpful. That's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to try not to go there at all the month of June, which shouldn't be that hard because I haven't even been there in months to begin with. Same thing with the Chic-fil-A thing. I don't live near Chick-fil-A, so it's not hard for me to not go to Chick-fil-A. With Target, it's a little bit harder because that's the only place where I can find a few products that actually fit me properly. Let's just say that. It's the only place where I have lost a lot of weight since last summer. And I need a new swim top. My bottoms fit fine. I need a new top. And Target historically is the only place where I can go and find those things that will fit my body type. Sucks. I'm not going to go look for a swim top there anymore. I've looked at Walmart. I've looked at other places. Just not the same, but I'm going to have to make myself find it somewhere else. And I know people will be like, Walmart supports gay stuff too. Well, Amazon supports gay stuff too. But the thing is, with Walmart, I was in the other day and they literally have a crummy cardboard, ooh, pride. Like, it's just not the same. Target's like, decorate the whole store. Kohl's is like, decorate the whole store. Walmart's like, hey, put up that obligatory pride display in the corner over there, and then we'll be done when the month's over. Like, it's just not as prominent, and it's not as geared toward children. That is the problem with it. If you want to buy a tucking swimsuit on Amazon because you're an adult and you're into that, who am I to stop you? But if you're going to advertise that to children, that's a different story. You're going to advertise that to children who have not gone through puberty yet, who will have their genitalia severely harmed by suppressing it that way. Binders hurt adults. Giving them to underdeveloped little girls will stunt their growth and will cause them issues in the future. It will cause them back issues. It will cause them rib issues. It will cause issues with the breast tissue itself. It has been known to also cause cancer and cause growths because they're not able to properly go through puberty because their chest is being, that was a disgusting sound, but it is, it's being and like crushed. They are literally crushing themselves to death in the name of, hey, diversity and inclusion. Same thing with selling tucking swimsuits for little boys. Do you know what goes into tucking? I do. I've looked into it. I'm not going to describe it. It's disgusting. And I know I have some younger people watching this, so I'm not going to tell them what it does. It's disgusting. And it is not good for the penis, let me tell you that. And you're going to have children who have not gone through puberty do this to themselves and stunt their growth, harm their body. Forget even the fact that we're encouraging children to chop things off. We're also encouraging them to crush themselves in the name of, oh, you don't feel like a boy? Okay, well, let's do some pretty terrible things to that, and let's push your testicles back up inside your body to hide them. Putting it bluntly, that's one of the things that they do. So, no. Walmart does not seem to be, I mean, yeah, they are in some locations, probably in like California, but at least where I am, they are not pushing this as hard on children. Target is. And that's the problem. Okay? When you're pushing this on children who cannot consent, who don't understand their sexual functions, who don't understand what their bodies are going through, that is the problem. Just like with the Dylan Mulvaney Budlight. It is not the fact that gay people drink beer that is the problem. It is not the fact that other companies have drag queens advertise for them that is the problem. That is their decision. They're a company. Is it a turnoff to me? Yeah, because I'm not interested in drag queens. I'm not interested in transgender people. That's not something that makes me think, I'm going to really go buy that whiskey. It's just not. But when you take beer, and Bud Light has said, they want a younger audience. They want to pull a younger audience. They want an underaged audience. They chose a TikTok influencer who is primarily big with children, Dylan Mulvaney, to advertise their product, their beer. That's bizarre. Okay? That is the issue here. It is not even necessarily the fact that they are selling pride stuff. It's not the fact necessarily that they are selling beer to trans people. It's the targeting of your children. That is the issue. Target didn't immediately return a request for a comment Sunday, and it looks like that might be the end of the article because now we're getting weird pictures of feet. So yeah, so Target did that. And then if we hop over here, Chick-fil-A sparks anti-woke outrage for VP of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion post. And Chick-fil-A has had this guy in office, would you call it that? Hang on. This isn't new. Chick-fil-A has always been this way. They've always had a diversity agenda. They weren't necessarily as loud about it as they are now, but it has always been there. The reason that it's so prominent, though, and people are so mad about it is Chick-fil-A has, predominantly been a Christian company. and predominantly has been supported by right-wingers and conservatives because of that, because it is a Christian company, because they close their stores on Sundays and give their employees a day off during the week to do as they see fit. If they want to go to church, they go to church. If they want to just spend time with their family, they spend time with their family. You don't have to be a Christian to work at Chick-fil-A. They include everybody from every background. They are being a little more loud though now in the sphere of diversity and inclusion, and I think that's what's bothering people. I don't really know that a Chick-fil-A boycott is necessarily called for, but at the same time, it doesn't look good based off of the values that they used to say that they have and the values they have now. They're not like advertising tucking underwear and chest binders to children or trying to sell beer to children. So this one I don't really see as much of as a big deal, other than it seems hypocritical to conservative Christians that don't know that Chick-fil-A has been like this for the last 20 years already. So we'll just look at this article real quick. Chick-fil-A, the chicken sandwich chain, long beloved by conservatives for its long-standing opposition to same-sex marriage, is sparking boycott calls after announcing that it has hired an executive in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion. According to Allie Beth Stuckey, he's been there. He's been there for like 16 years at this point, or they've at least had the position for 16 years at this point. The Atlanta-based company named Eric McReynolds to the post of vice president of DEI 2 years ago, but social media users took note of it in recent days, igniting angry denunciations of Twitter from conservatives who allege that the firm has gone woke. McReynolds has been employed by Chick-fil-A since 2007. So maybe the position wasn't created until 2 years ago, but still, it's been there. This isn't new news. He was promoted into the position of vice president of DEI in November 2021, according to his LinkedIn page. But the recent LGBTQ controversy involving brands such as Budlight, Target, and Kohl's have triggered the scrutiny of other corporate actors. This is bad. Very bad. I don't want to have to boycott. Are we going to have to boycott? Said a conservative strategist, Joey Manario. Manario posted an informal poll asking his 166,000 followers whether a boycott is in order. As of late Tuesday afternoon, 47% of respondents voted in favor of a boycott, while more than half, 52.4%, voted against. Manario linked to a page on Chick-fil-A's site called Committed to Being Better Together. Chick-fil-A Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer that values diversity, equity, and inclusion, the company said. We make employment decisions on non-discriminatory bases and remain committed to maintaining work environments free from any form of harassment. The company added, one of our core values at Chick-fil-A is that we are better together. When we combine our unique backgrounds and experiences with culture of belonging, we can discover new ways to strengthen the quality of care we deliver to customers, communities we serve, and to the world. The company side quoted McReynolds, who said he is committed to ensuring mutual respect, understanding, and dignity everywhere we do business. These tenets are good business principles and crucial to fulfilling our corporate purpose, the newly named VP of DEI said. Some Twitter users were outraged. I'm hoping they will stand by their Christian values, one Twitter user commented. As of today, I will no longer be eating Chick-fil-A, wrote another Twitter user. Chick-fil-A, which operates 3,000 restaurants in the lower 48 states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, has sought to moderate its politics in recent years in hopes of expanding its appeal beyond core supporters and consumers. In 2019, the company stopped donating money to groups that were opposed to same-sex marriage. That was a big issue, I guess, is one of the people was using his own personal money to support churches and things that were against same-sex marriage. Oh, so bad. A Christian company is supporting churches. But I don't know. I don't know that it garners a boycott. Okay, in the sense that it's supposed to be a Christian company and supposed to stand by Christian values, I can see where a boycott might show them that, hey, you say you're this, but you're acting like this. Do better. I could see that. I could see that working, and I could see that being justifiable. I'm less concerned with it, though, than I am with Target and Kohl's and Budlight, is all I'll say. So Chick-fil-A is under fire right now. Sorry about my voice. This is really bad. I'm like reading that article, and I sound bad. I sound really bad. let's see. I was going to bring something else up. I think that was on. Okay, here we go. So another thing that has sparked controversy is on the set of The Chosen, which is the Christian drama. Well, yeah, the Christian drama supposedly created by Christians about Christ and his disciples. And there was a pride flag spotted on set. One of the camera guys, it looks like, had it on his camera. So John Root tweeted, "Hey, Chosen TV, can you explain why there's a pride flag on set?" And The Chosen responded to that. Crap. Let's see. I totally lost it. I had it and then I lost it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right. I'll go with this because this actually has the Chosen's response. So, he tweeted that tweet and Chosen responded, "Just like with our hundreds of cast and crew who all have different beliefs or no belief at all than we do, we will work with anyone on our show who helps us portray or honor the authentic Jesus. We ask that audiences let the show speak for itself and focus on the message, not the messenger, because we'll always let you down." Which they're not wrong in saying that per se, because again, I know that the people behind this claim to be Christian, but it's not Hollywood per se, but it is of that realm of disappointment where nobody's going to get it 100% right. Nobody's going to get a biblical adaptation 100% right. We are human. We are flawed. But it's kind of like a don't shoot the messenger thing where they're like, we'll work with anybody. We want to capture Jesus and all of his authenticity. We're just making a show here. We all work together on this regardless of our backgrounds. However, it does feel like a cop-out because they could have said, listen, we have people on our staff that are of different backgrounds than us. We have people on our staff who are LGBTQ. We have people on our staff who are gay. We have people on our staff who are this. And we are using it as a ministry opportunity to reach those people. We are trying to show them Jesus and we are trying to show them the love of Christ. And they are allowed to work here, even though we have different beliefs and different backgrounds, because we are treating it as a ministry. That's not the wording they chose. And that's not at all what I think is going on there. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of hard because they're calling for a boycott of The Chosen over it. On one hand, I think that it's perfectly all right if you are a Christian and you are going to work with somebody who is of the LGBTQ community. I think that it's fine to have your camera guy be gay or lesbian or what you will. As long as you are not promoting that on set when you yourself are claiming to be a Christian in the industry and you're claiming that your show is different and you're claiming that you are trying to portray Jesus. I would not allow that to be, if that was my show, I would not allow that to be shown on the cameras because it would reflect on me and it would reflect on the manner in how I am running my show. And if they're allowing things like that, what else are they allowing on set? Again, it's not wrong to have a cameraman who's gay. It's not wrong to use it as an outreach, to hire somebody and use it to show them the love of Christ. But in allowing pride memorabilia, is that the right word? Paraphernalia, it's causing things like this. It's causing people to doubt your authenticity, and it doesn't look good is what I'll say about that. I don't know that it's worth boycotting the show over. They could have answered it more tactfully, like I said, and say that they're using the show as a ministry, maybe to reach people who would otherwise be unreachable, because I've heard people talk about the other controversies within The Chosen and how, obviously we have to be careful when we are portraying Christ in media. So if you're going to take something I understand that sometimes you have to add a little bit of filler to make a story interesting, because the Bible doesn't necessarily give us. That's why I didn't have a problem with Noah. And it was all, so the Russell Crowe Noah has its flaws. A lot of Christians walked out of the theater and, that's not biblically accurate. And it's like, no, it's not, because do you realize how little information the Bible gives us on Noah? You have to put in filler somewhere, okay? Oh, the Nephilim weren't rock giants? Who's to say they weren't? We don't know what they were. And if you did your digging before you went to go see Noah, you would know that the director is an atheist, and it is his interpretation of a story that he found interesting. It is not meant to be a biblical shot-for-shot remake of the story of Noah. So I don't have a problem with that movie like a lot of other Christians do, because I understand the context behind it. The Chosen is supposed to be more of a shot-for-shot remake of the life of Christ and his disciples. Granted, you do have to take some liberties, because if you made a show on that, you don't have enough content to fill in the little cracks. It would be like building a brick wall and not putting the mortar in. You need something to hold it together. So with them taking liberties, as long as it's not a sacrilegious liberty or like a weird liberty, like I know in the show, The Bible, there was a scene with the burning bush or whatever, and Moses was like, he is real, or something like that, when like God made the bush burn in it. And that was a bizarre thing to add, I feel like. So sometimes, like I said, adding filler to shows like this can backfire, but it can also work very well. But I feel like if you are making a show and you are trying to make it as accurate of a representation of Christ as you can, you don't have room to fudge around with things like pride flags, because people are going to jump on that. The show could be used as a ministry. Like I said, you could have a gay cameraman who otherwise might never hear the story of Christ. He might never hear the gospel aside from working on the set of The Chosen. That could be a plug into his life. So again, it's not a bad thing that they're working with people of other beliefs, people of other faiths, people of no faiths. But I think that their response was a cop-out, because, like I said, they could have just said, this is a ministry opportunity. And they chose to kind of take the easy way out and be like, oh, well, yeah, Jesus. And I'm a little disappointed in that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it garners any more issues. I thought that was interesting to bring up, though, the Chosen stuff, just because it's a very interesting position to be in as a Christian. I was reminded recently and retweeted a quote that I tweeted a ways back, and I'm going to find it real quick and go to my account. I have it pinned because it's one of my favorite quotes. So I'm going to hop over here and show you guys that. Let's start that over. I knew if I ever once compromised, I was going to be in trouble, because if you can compromise once, you can compromise again. And that was from Desmond Doss, who was born in 1919 and died in 2006. And if anyone has seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge, that's where you know the name from. A very good movie. It's a phenomenal adaptation of his story. And that quote was when he was asked about, well, why didn't you conform? Because if you don't know the story, Desmond Doss was a conscientious objector to World War II because he did not believe in violence, and he did not believe that God wanted him to kill other people. However, he felt that he could not just sit by when the war was in full swing, so he decided to enlist as an army medic. And his stipulation was, I'm not going to carry a rifle. I'm not even going to train with a rifle. I am not here to take lives. I am here to save lives. And when he was asked, why didn't you just do the training? Why didn't you just pick up the rifle for the training? Why didn't you just learn everything you were supposed to? Because he was almost court-martialed for it. The man almost went to prison for life over this. Because of his strong religious conviction and belief that God did not want him to take lives. And that's why he said, I knew if I ever once compromised, I was going to be in trouble, because if you can compromise once, you can compromise again. And I know that's slippery slope is kind of like a trope that's thrown around, but that quote exemplifies that, where he knew if he budged just a little, the next time it would get a little bit easier, and it would get a little bit easier, and it would get a little bit easier. And then where would he be? Where would his morals be? Where would his conviction be? It would be gone, because he would have compromised so many times that it chipped away and wore away at his beliefs and at his faith. And he ended up winning his court case, and he ended up, I mean, if you watch the movie, you'll see, and if you know anything about the historical person, he ended up going into the war and didn't fire a shot, and he ended up saving countless and countless men, because that was his goal. His goal was not, he was not there to take lives, he was there to save lives. And when they went up on that ridge, he stayed there for, was it 2 days, pulling people out from both sides and sending them down to the medics to save them. And his story is super inspiring about somebody standing strong in their convictions, and how God used him to save all those people, literally physically save all of those people. Yeah, his story is one I recommend looking into. Watch the movie, because it's a Mel Gibson obviously did it. It was a phenomenal adaptation of his story. Another one I would recommend, World War II as well, is Unbroken. And that's the story of Louis Zamperini, and Angelina Jolie directed that one. I have not watched the second one, because I enjoyed the first one so much that I don't want to watch the second one. It was by a lower budget Christian company, so I have low expectations for it. But the first movie was based on Unbroken, which is the book that Lauren Hillenbrand, who also wrote Seabiscuit, wrote about Louis Zamperini. He was an Italian-American kid. His parents were, I think, full-blooded Italian, and they emigrated, and he was born in the US. And he was an Olympic runner. He ran in the 1939 Olympics, stole a Nazi flag right off of one of the buildings or whatever, met Hitler, shook hands with the man, or the 1938 Berlin Olympics. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. And ended up being not a pilot. He was in a bomber, in a B-17 in World War II. And they went down on the ocean, and he and one other guy survived, and he ended up, his whole life he was taught about God or whatever, but it just never stuck. And he ended up, praying, like, if you get me through this, I will dedicate my life to you. Incredible story of him surviving POW camp, Japanese POW camp, which, if you know anything about that, it's bad. I had to put the book down a few times because it was very hard to read at times. I had to stop reading it and just be like, okay, we're going to pick this up later because I can't do this right now. Phenomenal story. He ended up going home, getting home, surviving the war, and forgot about his promise to God, basically. And then he ended up eventually becoming a drunk. He'd wake up on top of his wife, just strangling the life out of her. Like, his life was a mess. It was a wreck. They don't go into that in the movie because Christians freaked out, and they were like, you're leaving the Christian part right out of it. But I listened to an interview with it. The reason that Louis Zamperini was involved in the making of the movie. He got to watch a test screening of it before he passed away. He never got to see the finished product, but he himself said that he did not want to lead into the Billy Graham stuff because he felt like the movie, him, eventually being saved at a Billy Graham crusade, turning his life around, coming to Christ, forgiving the guards. He met some of the guards, right, from the camp that he was in, the POW camp, forgiving them. And just like this amazing, almost Corrie ten Boom-esque story where she met some of the Nazi guards and forgave them for everything they did to her. Very similar story, very impressive story. And he said he specifically did not want the movie to go into the after the war stuff because he didn't want people to go see the movie, see his whole overarching life story, leave the theater and forget about it. He said that he wanted people to see up until the point where he returned home, wonder about it, wonder what happened next, and then go find out for themselves. Read the book. Look him up online. put the information into their heads themselves so that it would stay with them instead of popcorn flick, all right, head home, forget all about it. He wanted people to put in the time and the research that his story would stay with them. And that's why the movie stops where it does and doesn't go into all the other stuff, because half the book is about the war and the other half is about after the war. And man, I am going really long today. Wow. But I'm going to leave it with that. And I'm going to recommend that book, Unbroken by Lauren Hillenbrand. Watch the movie Unbroken, directed by Angelina Jolie. Watch Hacksaw Ridge if you haven't. Look up some interviews with Desmond Doss and listen to him talking. Listen to Louise Zamperini talking. It's phenomenal, inspirational stuff about standing strong in your convictions. And I bring that up, the Desmond Doss quote, because as Christians, I know not everyone watching this is a Christian, but if you compromise just a little bit, it's going to get easier to do it again. And it's going to get easier to do it again until it erodes at your foundation to the point where it's no longer there and it's no longer relevant. And that's why we need to be standing up and we need to be standing strong and we need to be taking these things seriously. So I'm going to end with that because I was not interrupted at all during this video somehow, and I don't have to edit it. My voice is dying. And tomorrow, I'm hopefully going to record again tomorrow and maybe get back into some more of the regular news cycle and more of the current stuff that's going on. So without further ado, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at fearmeitsbre. I've been trying to upload to my Rumble as well. I do have that. I've been having some issues with it and getting it all to work out, but I'm going to continue to do that because I know there have been some people that have watched on there and enjoyed it on there. So you can also find me on Rumble at fearmeitsbre. And I'm going to let everyone go. Hope you have a great afternoon. Hopefully I'll be back on tomorrow and then I can start getting back into the swing of posting these videos again. So have a great afternoon, everyone, and I will see you next time.